Salve, omnes, I am Rubenus, and we are back with another speedrun and zero trial for Phoenotopia Awakening. I had no real reason to do this other than I just wanted to. I was playing through the game again, and I wanted to do a better version of the one that I did before. The one before isn't bad, it actually is a better guide in terms of that's what you want to do, because it takes it slower. I think the end runtime for that was like 340, the end runtime for this is about 244. So, you have to get to the end of the very game, with the last save point within 4 hours. So if you follow this and do a lot of the tricks that I do, you'll have an hour and 15 minutes roughly to play with, which is plenty of time to do other things if you want to be better equipped. If you die, you can make sure you quit to the title and then do it, because otherwise it'll count the time if you just reload from checkpoint. One of the things that you'll notice that I'm doing here is that you'll notice I'm sprint jumping pretty much always, all the time, consistently. And that's because sprint jumps will take you farther, and they also won't consume stamina consistently, whereas general sprinting will. So you actually get farther in doing so. A lot of it is also, you'll be able to avoid a lot of enemies doing so, because you'll be zooming across the level. You'll also notice that I'm pretty much only always doing jump attacks, and that's because they do more damage each attack rather than a standing attack, and they consume less energy than a power attack and can take less time. Another thing is that if you're doing consecutive hits, you will also lose damage per hit. So that's partly why I constantly do jump attacks, is because they are just all around better, especially for speedrunning. There's very few items that I get throughout the run. Basically, anything that I get is required, not necessarily required, but very beneficial for the run. One of those is for one of the techniques that allows you to basically charge up a charge attack and hold it instead of having to stand there and do it. You can actually move around with it. It makes it a lot better, especially when you get the spear bomb. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory. It's a tutorial level. A lot of it is just kind of basic platforming. You'll notice that I hit frogs here and there. Most of that is just so I don't have to wait for them to attack and so I can dodge it. But yeah, there's really not much here to do. I'll go over some basics here. Basically, sprint jump, as always. You want to pick up any money that you can on the way, but you don't want to get out of your way to do so, just because you really won't need that much. So once you get the crossbow, you really don't need to buy anything else. You can buy armor if you want to, but I don't think it's really necessary, especially since you won't really have enough health to be able to tank hits regardless, so I don't really think it's that beneficial. And you don't really want a better bat, because once you get the spear bomb, you really won't be using another weapon. A lot of this first part is just memorization of what to do and where to go. None of it is terribly difficult. Most of it is pretty simple and straightforward. So the trick to go through dialogue pretty quickly is that there's the confirm, and then there's the jump button, and you press those alternately. It will skip through much faster than just spamming one button or the other. Anytime that you see me basically jump attack out of a cutscene, that's why. It's because I'm spamming those buttons, and that's what's happening. There's a few little tricks that I learned compared to the first one, and a few little things that I thought of that I didn't try. One of those is things like that, where I jump and attack to get the pearl stone out of it first, rather than going up to it, running up, attacking, getting it. Again, I'm not going for world record, but there's a lot of little tricks here that, especially if you're doing this yourself, and you're finding yourself behind on time, it actually might help you, so that you can actually kind of catch up and not be furious when you get to the very end and you're just struggling for time. This only gives you about like $15, so it's not really important to get. I just got it anyway just because I think it's kind of cool just to get to, and it's, again, right in the way, so it's easy to do. But yeah, these are pretty simple. A little few tricks here that just think about, and if there's a way to activate things from afar and you don't have to run up to them, pretty much always do that. And just general speedrunning nonsense. There's probably a trick of some kind to make sure that that bottom one does not get in your way. I'm not sure what it is, and again, doesn't eat up too much time that I think is necessarily that pivotal. And here, one of the tricks later on that you can use is that your bombs have the same pressure plate abilities. So if there's points where you just need to get through a door, you don't need to go necessarily need to go grab urns or whatever grabbable object you can. You could just use a bomb. The bomb will just let you get through the door so you can get whatever you need without having to spend all the time on the puzzle. In the very beginning, you need three pearl stones in order to activate the final door. There are 4 available so that you can get to the treasure chest. Again, the treasure is not necessary just because of the amount of money you pick up throughout the rest of the run. And you have to go out of your way to go get that last pearl stone, and I just don't think it's worth the time to do so because it is out of your way. But if you're struggling and you want money to upgrade your stuff, it is there available for you, and it only takes an extra 2 or 3 minutes to go get it. And the reason I want to play this game again, much like Mega Man, I just like 2D platformers that have a little bit of action. I like action platformers more importantly, but this is more of an action. This is more of a platformer with action elements, and I really enjoy the ability to kind of speedrun these things, and it's not terribly difficult with a bunch of different commands. So here we're getting to the first boss. It's not too hard. A lot of it is just goading out his attacks. I try to do aerial attacks pretty much only. Every once in a while I'll do a power attack. But the power attacks take a lot more of the energy and they take a lot more time. I just don't think it's beneficial to do so. I'm quite surprised that I didn't get hurt there, but a lot of this is just kind of goading him, and a lot of that goading is you basically just walk or sprint through him, and he'll just trigger an attack. Most of his attacks are easy to dodge. It's a pretty basic boss. And so there we're done with the first area, which is pretty simple, nothing too difficult there. The game gets a little bit more annoying and difficult when it adds a lot more enemies on screen at the same time, and a lot of them have knockback as well as a lot of damage, and it just becomes really obnoxious, especially since you don't really have anything to push them back. Some of the enemies you can push back with a regular attack or with a crossbow, but it does become really obnoxious when there's so many of them and they have armor, so you can't actually break them. And here we get the major impetus for the story. Some UFO shows up, grabs all of our people, and we gotta go on a quest to go find them. And obviously, greater details unfold. There's always a world-ending event. Kinda think it'd been better if they didn't do a world-ending event, but I really enjoy the pushback on some of the stories to just do a much more simple, streamlined story. I like the stories that are more close to the neighborhood and the environment just because you have a greater connection with the characters, I think. Everybody's trying to save the world all the time, always. It really dilutes the idea because everything is always having this major fight and cataclysm and all sorts of stuff, and it just loses its luster when it's the same thing every time. I think it's a lot better when you save those events for later on in the series rather than doing it first. But I think this game does it pretty well. Doesn't take it too seriously, which is one of its driving factors for me, is that it's a game, it has a serious overtone, but it has a lot of comedy, it has a lot of just like, hey, this is a game, let's remember that. The trek back isn't too difficult. They get rid of a lot of the enemies and the obstacles and the hazards and whatnot. The biggest thing here in this section is when you jump back, you got to be careful when you sprint jump because either you'll fall through or you'll fall into water. So generally, I just kind of take my time here. There is a specific pattern you can to sprint jump through all of it, but there's a lot of very tight, pixel perfect jumps and lands you got to do, and I just don't think it's worth it because I mean you save 3 or 4 seconds. It's just not worth it to do. And once again, once we get to this part, a lot of it is just knowing what to do. Go to the very end, talk to Alex. He will skip through all the dialogue. He will corral everybody to do whatever story then progresses and let you off on your own. One of the things I do wish they put in here was a New Game Plus, just because while I do enjoy collecting things, I just don't know why games are so against doing New Game Plus now and just letting me be an absolute monster and have all the upgrades and just let me do my own thing. And there's ways to avoid sequence breaking and stuff. Anything that is important for the story, you can obviously lock behind a door. But I will say, in this game, there are ways to get around certain things and sequence break a little bit, but not much. But to continue on, again, I like that the story is enough and tells a lot with its world building, with its environment and its set pieces. There is a lot of exposition, I would say, in the beginning. The pacing does get kind of messed up in the game, throughout the game. But I think, overall, it does a pretty good job of making a game with a simple enough story and going with it. The art style is pretty filled in. I like how the backgrounds, especially in these homes, like there's a lot of stuff on the shelves. It's that kind of stuff where it looks lively, it looks homely. When you get into the other areas where they're more destroyed, I mean, just the cataclysms and everything is it's less copy and paste, kind of like Super Mario World. If you go play, like they have a background they copy and paste. I don't blame them for that, but with modern pixel games and stuff like this, I love that there's a lot more detail and there's a lot more stuff that makes it look realistic in that context. So as far as when we get out to the world, there's some skips and stuff that we do, because there's a lot of things that we don't necessarily need to do, and if you played the game before, it's pretty easy to do. So instead of going to the bee farm, or the bee area here, we're actually going to go through the caves up top, which allow you to skip all that, and there's a treasure chest. So it's very dark. You can either turn up your brightness on the screen, and you can kind of see the outlines, but I've also played this game a few times to know exactly where everything is. You just jump straight all the way left over, no hazards, and just kind of swing your bat when you stop at a certain point. And then here, climb a ladder, jump and climb, and then immediately sprint jump, and you're on whatever this platform is. It's basically a scaffold and a slight drop, so it's not that hard to navigate. You'll notice that I'm constantly strafing or doing diagonals in the overworld. That's because it's faster. Here you'll see me do some hesitations and delays just so I can get stamina to do sprint jumps and skips some parts of it. It just makes it easier to navigate. I do like this area because it's a nice break from the constant combat you just had. They added basically a puzzle element or a collectible area. I do think they should have made it more like a Tomb Raider where they did that more often, but they focused on the combat a little bit more, and that's the design that they went with. So when you get to Atai, you want to first go to Ador's house, the top left, so you can get the prompt to unlock the door. So that basically you go here, and then you can go to Atai and do all the stuff in one quick sequence instead of having to go back and forth to do anything. Once you get out of here, I think it's the fastest to go to the right side, and then go west as you need to do all the different things for the quest lines. I would say this is not purely fully optimized. There is probably a faster way to do all this, but generally I get the trigger to get the wine. So again, I go talk to this guy, get the wine, and then move on and do all the things I need to do, basically from screen to screen to screen, instead of having to backtrack at all as little as possible at least. Here you see me mess up a few of these jumps. Go talk to this guy, so you try to get the wine. He tells you need an ID card, so then you talk to Lisa, at which point you can open the door, as well as get her ID. So all this conversation with Lisa and this, it again is kind of a slog to get through all the story that's going on. I mean, there's a good bit of character development and all that stuff. It's not bad. But it is a bit of a slog to go through, especially the first time, because there's a lot of just exposition and build-up and things like that. I think they could have paced a little bit better. So you're going to go through all of this, and eventually, so we'll give you the options to do all these things. If you speed through the text like I do, every once in a while you'll make a mistake, which I do a couple times. And also hit this hit this poor little sheep. Again, the order of these events is not set in stone. You can do whatever you want, but you do basically have to go back and forth from the right side all the way to the left. So I don't think it's beneficial necessarily to go in any sort of way. I think it's best to go to the orphanage or the daycare here, set this quest line off, and then get the kids in hide and seek, as well as trigger all the other stuff on your way back. And for hide and seek, you can see them a little bit, but it's just kind of best to memorize where they are. So there's one in the right screen, 2 in the center screen, and then 2 in the left screen. The same thing here, when you go down the well, I don't have the lamp. I never buy the lamp, but here, if you turn your brightness up, you can see the outlines of where the lands are. And again, there's not... The jumps are not difficult, so it's not really hard to do, especially once you know what's there. So be careful not to sprint jump too much. I messed up a few runs doing that because I would sprint jump, land in the water, and just get angry. Make sure to dye your hair brown, because you will need that for the ID card. And you'll see me be very slow with my text at this point, just to make sure I didn't pick the wrong color. And since I went all the way to the left, it's actually faster than to go to the overworld and go to the right, instead of having to run and sprint jump across all 3 screens. And this way you also get to go talk to the prisoner and the guard along the way. So here we have the line for the prisoner, we have all the kids, the door is unlocked, and then we're going to get the flute. So we have almost everything that we need to continue on with the story. This part of the game, especially the first time you play, is a bit of a slog, because there's a lot of just kind of fetch questing you have to do in constant order, and I just don't... again, just the pacing on this could have used some... I think doing a different quest for this stuff would have been better. So the 2 songs you really need to remember are the Ouroboros, or the Bandit song, as well as the Prince song, or the Royal Hymn. You'll need that to get through specific story elements. After that point, you don't really need to know any song. You'll need to have the Lullaby Ava to do the Zero trial, or you'll have a miserable time. But you don't necessarily need to remember that fully, because you only really need to use that once. There's probably a skip here, and I was trying to do something cheeky, but I don't know. It might be like a sprint jump that you could do somewhere, but I'm not sure if that saves time or how consistent that would be. And here you see me being confused about what I'm doing. Don't know why I've lost my mind trying to get these bombs. And here you see me get absolutely denied by the ceiling, which is really rude. Typically, I have not saved up until this point, and that's just because I don't need to. I will tell you, this run is segmented, meaning that it is not one full continuous run. There are times where I save it and actually reload it. I usually did cuts to make that, like, seamless, but I did want to let everybody know that just because I'm not trying to cheat or make an appearance that I did something fantastical when I did not. I believe there's 8 points or so where I had to reload a save just because I either died or messed up or forgot something. But most of these are in like 30, 45-minute segments of me doing these all in continuous runs. I save here just because there was a chance that I would die, because when you get hit by 2 or 3 of these, it takes 15 of your health. And I couldn't afford that, as well as I don't think I have saved up until this point. But yeah, this is a pretty simple puzzle. The only concern here is making sure that you don't hit some of the hidden pressure plates in the sand. And the only way you know where they are, is by landing on them originally and just kind of memorizing the pattern of where they are. So you need 2 of these scrolls to get the spear bomb, which is the best weapon in the game for various reasons. Someone, I would say, cheekily made fun of me. I think it was a good fun on one of my other videos where I talked about how great the spear bomb is. And I think it's funny, but it is the best weapon in the game. And I'll talk about that when we get to it. I save again here just because there is one part with a bunch of vultures, and it is very easy to get stun locked into death, and it's really annoying and obnoxious. This is really only one time in the game that you'll see me save pretty consistently. Most of the times, I just ignore it. You want to be careful with your jumps here. That jump is very particular, because otherwise, if you're too far away from the ledge, you will land on the flower and lose all your health. The reason I have a bomb on my head is because if anything lands on your head as an attack, the bomb will actually tank the hit for you and not explode. So that's actually really good knowledge to have, especially when you're doing some of the puzzles or the hazard, like the platforming that have things like that. You can just full on ignore it. The best technique I've had for this is to try and hit any of these that you can. You want to go out and attack as much as possible. Here you can see that I messed up one of my jumps and all these attacked. The somewhat good thing is when they attack you once, they will leave. But you generally want to go down that first attack and jump better than I did so you can ignore them. And most of them will attack in one sequence, so then you can do the song. It takes a while for that door to open, and then you can get inside. And that is really the only difficult part of this actual trial here. After this point, it is pretty simple puzzling, and there's not a lot of chance for failure. I forgot, if you put 2 bombs down there and then do a jump, you can actually get up there. I don't even think, you don't even need to do a sprint jump. You can just do a regular jump with 2 bombs. But I messed up the bomb, and it was just too late by the time I realized that I failed that. I meant to pick that up, the other bomb up, and put it down, but I kind of got frazzled here because I got out of my rhythm. Again, I'm just being careful with my sprint jumps. There's a little secret here, so you can just skip that whole section below, which saves actually a good bit of time, especially if your aim with the slingshot is not too great. And this is one of the most important parts. When you're coming down here, there's a hidden honey brew, which gives you increased stamina regen. You would not necessarily need that, but it is very beneficial for the boss, especially doing the speed runs. You can get the honey brew down in the Bee Inn. That's in the Sunflower Road. However, they're 20 apiece, and especially at the beginning of the game, you don't have the money for a lot of them, which is why I skip it the first time and then come back to it later on. And here you'll see one of probably four, I think it's 4 points in the game where I do a strategic save and reload. And that's because there are save points in the game. I do think it's a glitch, I don't think it was intended, but if you save and reload, it'll automatically heal you to full. So you see me do that a couple times here, just so that I can get the full health back when I do some of these combat trials, just because there's a lot of people and it gets really annoying, especially if you get hit once and get hit into other attacks in a stun lock. I would say there's no particular order that works best here. I don't know if there's one that's better or faster. It depends on your playstyles. I generally do the combats ones first, just because they get them out of the way. Just because, especially this early in the game, and with the equipment that I have, I don't have a lot to manhandle these people. So some of this is just trial and error. I do this just because for the money, and it also makes it a little bit faster when you come back for the spear bomb. The best way I've found to finish this and not die is if you can get both of these gentlemen charging at you at the same time and get them lined up, you can hit them both at the same time. And you generally just want to get rid of one enemy type first, because you can see here, they overwhelm you pretty quickly, especially if they're on other ends of the screen. But especially since these two are also lined up, it made that really easy. And you don't want to skip through that too quickly, because it'll give you some money if you tell them to pay up. But generally, especially in the beginning part of the game, for areas like this, you want to line up these enemies as much as possible so you can hit multiple people at the same time. This is a point also where I cut it, because I did fail that challenge with that dude multiple times, just because, again, I got stun locked, and all my deaths are gonna, not necessarily all of them, but a good chunk of them are, like, hyper cut at the very end of the video, so if you want to see me fail a couple times, some of them are quite infuriating. So again, I'm going to do the combat one first, just because you get a full heal, and you might as well. The other ones don't necessarily need a full heal, and you can do them in one run. Obviously, you can save and reload. It doesn't take that much time if you prefer the security over anything else. But this is one of the situations where it's really annoying, because I keep trying to bait out attacks, but they kept just sequentially in tandem. It was incredible blocking they were doing. Yep. So again, try to corral them. Usually, using bombs against these enemies is a bad idea, as you can see, because they will knock them away back into you. For these guys, if you get up close to them, they will do that swing attack. If you are far enough away, that's what triggers them to sprint in and try to close the distance on you. A charge attack will stagger them and hit them in the air and stop their attack. However, at this point, the charge attack takes way too long, and there's usually too many other enemies that you don't have a chance to actually do that. But you can see me trying to line them both up at the same time, but I just ran out of stamina, which almost got me killed. So that's why it's usually better to go for security rather than risk, which is not what speedruns are about, but sometimes that security is better than losing losing all that time and getting frustrated. This boss isn't too hard once you learn the patterns. A lot of this is just jumping to attack, closing the distance when you can. When this person gets to half health, they will then, after every 2 jumps, throw a shuriken? I think it's a shuriken? I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be. I just misgauged that distance really bad. And be careful when you jump past them and attack like I do, because that little friction spark trail that she leaves behind will hurt you if you land on it. Since I lost a lot of health and we had the 2 combat runs, save, reload again to get a full health, and then I do the next 2 in one single swoop, just because I don't necessarily need... the only time that you basically take damage is if you mess up. And especially in the final run timed challenge there. I believe I've done this once where I get low enough on the ladder and I jump over both of them, like went right here. But I was deciding again to take security over taking a risk because I just did not want to do with it. This is one of the little tricks you can do. If you're quick enough, you can trigger her to see you, trigger the door, and then just keep running and sprint jump out of it. I have the same thing. I have done this before where I was able to get past him, sprint, and then get to the door. But that is very tight timing, and it is just not worth it to do. Because I could never get it consistently. Yeah, that one's not too hard. A lot of that is just having patience. This one, again, is just kind of knowing the time. You can take your time here. Again, we have an hour and 15 to play with. So if you're not as bold as I am, and you can see there I messed up one of the jumps. Generally, when you sprint jump through that, you want to land in that little arc curve to give you more time. But I messed up one of my the timing because it's very tight if you're going to sprint through it. So if you want to take your time, you're more than welcome to do so. And the same thing here. You'll see me do a quick little trick with the slingshot because it'll eat one of the bullets. And the thing is, you have very little stamina to play with, so if you mess up at all, or take too long, or sprint too long, you will not be, you'll get hit by one of the arrows, at least. If you were struggling with this, if you get one of the guard keys, the easiest is that shiny lady by guard door number 1. And if you go to this middle snare here, with the stink root that's in the food door, the door has like a little apple on it. What it'll do is it'll spit you up immediately without taking a lot of damage, and it'll spit you up onto that top platform and skip most of this little trial here. Because the trial here is pretty tight, even if you are speedrunning through it. And here I was panicking because I almost failed that miserably. It almost pushed me down and I would have been furious. But here, you can see even me doing the speedrun and knowing what to do. I had a second and a half left. At this point, we have everything that we need to go to the boss. For the boss, we do honey brew, and we just continuously attack the man as much as possible. There's a few cool tricks and one little secret that I do, that if you want to, you can. If you again want to take more security and not be as bold, that is up to you. But once you learn the patterns, it's really not that hard. The hardest move that I found personally is when he rolls across the ground, and it's really obnoxious. Again, if you're missing any health, you can do a save and reload there to get full health. This is a long cutscene that you can't skip, which is really annoying. But there's 2 things you'll see me kind of do here. One is take the honey brew so that I get increased stamina regen. You can lay 2 bombs down and continue to hit him while he's stunned, and that gives you a little bit more damage output if you time it out just right. The other thing is that you'll see me hit Birdie with the slingshot, and she drops $5 every time you hit her. So it's actually a good way to get a little bit of money. Not much, obviously. You don't want to waste a lot of time doing that because it's just not worth it. But yeah, anytime this guy is running on the ground, if you sit by the walls, when he's bouncing, he will not be able to hit you whatsoever, and it gives you time to do slingshots. You can try to do bombs, but again, he will push the bombs to you, So it's a very dangerous game to play. I'm sure someone much better than me could figure out the exact timing and location to figure that out. I just don't have that kind of time. So yeah, so here you see me put bombs down, wait till I have full stamina. He was really rude and decided that he wanted to escape. That usually what happens if you're too far away from him when he spawns up. You need to do the bombs pretty quickly in order to get all that damage off. Yep. So while he's sitting there, it's actually usually best to put a bomb down because it'll hit him. This one's very tight. I jump against the wall, so that makes it, because he'll bounce off of it, so it gives me a little more time. And it's easier to dodge it that way, but with that lava pit that always lands, always at the wall, it's very dangerous because he will knock you into it and sometimes stun lock you into it. It's really annoying. But generally, you should be able to get him in 2 cycles, as long as you do everything right. You might be able to do it in 1 cycle if you maximize your stamina and everything else, and you have the upgraded equipment, but I don't think so. I think he has too much health even for that. Yeah, and there you see me get that off, which again does a lot of damage. So here we're done with the first, like, real challenge of the game. That was the first time, especially the first time playing this. You probably have there's a lot of puzzles, there's a lot of combat, and it gets a little bit more difficult in terms of all of that, and making you kind of learn all the systems and what to do. And then we end up here going back to the Pancello village, so that we can get, again, another quest line. I don't mind doing it the first time. I do think it's cool that they bring you back automatically so that you can go back with the bomb and get some of the other equipment and upgrades. However, they continue to do this throughout the game, and I think it's kind of annoying that you can't fast travel through some of the areas unless you do something that, when you're doing the zero trial like I am, you don't get that option. Because they give you heart rubies and stuff like that. Alright, so the reason I go into this well is because I get the second scroll here, and because it's, again, it's in the way, it's already where I am. It's kind of easy to get. But this trial is a little bit annoying. It's a lot of it's platforming, and it's pretty tight platforming. So this one, if you are not good with this one may not be for you. There's a couple other ones you can get. There's a total of 6 scrolls, so you don't have to do this one if you're struggling with it. Just do small hops between the middle, and then big hops through the other one. And then here, you'll see me do a bomb, because the bomb will again eat any arrows that hit me above. You want to time these out right. If I had my mic on at that time, you probably would have heard me yup, because that was absolutely terrifying. And as a matter of fact, this is one of the cuts I've done, just because that one did kill me before, and it was wildly infuriating. I threw the bomb because it was about to explode, and one of the arrows knocked it right into my face, and instantly killed me. So at this point, we have the 2 scrolls, we have everything that we need, we're not going to come back for any of this. We will continue on with the story, and then we'll have to come back through all of this. We'll go through the Sunflower Road and go to the Bee Inn, so that we get 2 honey brew. If you want, you can probably get 3 or 4 if you so choose. Having more stamina regen is never a bad thing in itself. But I don't think that necessarily it's beneficial, considering that we do need a very tight amount of money when we get to the big city, Dea City. When we get to that city, we need to get the crossbow. Don't necessarily need to get the crossbow, but it is extremely beneficial for one of the fights. So we need a tight amount of money to get one of the technique upgrades for charging your key very fast, as well as the crossbow. Again, we'll skip through all of this. A lot of it is exposition. And again, one of the things I do like about this is kind of how close this world is. People move from this rustic area to the big city, but they keep their roots. You know, they didn't necessarily abandon their family. they're still willing to help out. I mean, again, I like that kind of homely feel that the game built, that everything is connected, the people are there. So there's not really much interesting here to see. Yeah, most of this you've already seen before. Go through the Sunflower Road. The Sunflower Road is pretty simple. It's again a very early part of the game, so they didn't make it too difficult. There's some platforming. There's a lot of just when you see a spider, you just delay it. You just go down a hit and just jump over them. And here you see me trying to get this treasure chest, but these bees are constant. The bees and the little dudes are constantly being a hazard, and I just give up on it. As again, while the money's tight, it's not that tight that you need that. It is beneficial, but not pivotal. So if you want to spend more time in the Sunflower Road getting up all these drops of nectar, they're called nectars, because what they actually do is they give you can actually eat them in the menu even on the highest difficulty, and it give you a little bit of energy boost. So if you need that at certain points, it's actually not bad to have in your inventory. And because these bees are extremely rude, and because my aim is terrible, I actually ended up hitting the bees, and I had to just de-aggro them by leaving the area and coming back. I messed up one of my jumps, got mad at myself. And despite the fact that I stayed to wait on my stamina regen, I still messed up that, which ultimately I should have just jumped down to begin with, because it doesn't take that long, it would have been faster. But I wanted to do something cool. So this is a point where if you want to get Fran, you want to get the energy gem, you do have the bombs, they give you that option. And you don't have to do the zero trial at the same time. If you want to get all the artwork in the same save file, you do. But if you're just going for the achievement or the sense of personal self-satisfaction, then you don't have to do it. The Moonlight Ravine is an area that's not difficult. It does drain a lot of your stamina, which is really annoying. Yeah, so generally in this area, you do not want to overextend yourself. You'll see me not do sprint jumps a lot just because I need the stamina. If you're in the water, it is very difficult to get out because you need stamina to do so. You can jump off ladders with impunity and do it 20,000 times and leap across huge bounds, and that takes a little bit of stamina or none at all, but getting out of the water is impossible unless you have stamina, which is really obnoxious. So you generally want to make sure that you have stamina. You'll see me kind of just take my time, delay hits, hesitate, or go down attacks, just so I do not have to deal with that. I missed that spider and got quite mad at myself, because I knew he was there. I've done this so many times. Again, go out the attacks as much as possible. A lot of this is just taking your time and not falling down like I just did. For these toads, I generally try to hit them just to stagger them because they will jump at you. And usually they will hit you. If you sprint jump past them, you might miss them, but they also leap pretty far. So I just generally don't take the chance. This is a wonderful little dodge thing you can do. Or you could just backtrack and avoid them entirely by either ducking or getting under something. And then we're done with Moonlight Ravine. And then we're back to Sprint Jump City. And this is a point, if you want to get equipment, you can go to the city if you so choose. You have some time to play with it. You don't necessarily have to sit there like I do and just run through the game. But I'm doing Zero Trial, and I'm doing this one quick motion, so I'm going here and doing everything. This might be beneficial to get the crossbow or some upgrades or whatever here if you so choose. That's up to you. So when you get to him, you want to make sure you do safety first, because that way you'll get a good chunk of money. If you do it twice, he'll kick you out because you're greedy, which is funny. But you want to go down here. The fourth trial in both of these is a combat, so I ignore both of these just not to take the risk. And this is one of the little skips you can do with the bomb. You need 3 pressure plates. If you can stand on 2, let the bomb stand on another one. You don't really need that much of the door to go up. The rest of these are basically just timing it out right. There's no real skip here as far as I can tell. And then for this one, there is a trick to get it done, and I mess it up pretty badly here. And I mess it up on the other one too. I thought about like restarting and just and like restarting the save just because it looked pretty bad. Like it looked unprofessional. However, I mean it doesn't waste too much time when I mess this up. This is another situation when you went double bombs, and you can jump up there. The problem is I didn't realize I didn't have enough stamina to do 2 bombs, and I just messed that up really badly. And to save myself the embarrassment, I just decided to keep going with the regular staircase here. That's the first section done. And the second section is pretty similar to it, just with little, basically, improved puzzles on it. This is just memorizing the answers. There are things throughout, if you don't know, there are things throughout the laboratory that give you the answers, or you can just copy what I did here. There is a cheeky little trick I did there. There's no reason for that. I don't think it saves any amount of time. And if you miss, man, you will lose a good chunk of time because it has to respawn. But I think it's funny. You want to time your hits out here, basically just as soon as it starts to go reverse, you hit it again. If you try to spam it, you just waste up your energy and it'll probably roll off the other side. This is another one where I just messed it up so badly and I got frazzled and I lost it because it's one of those muscle memory things, man. What you're supposed to do is have this underneath it so it makes a staircase, and I just beefed all of it. I messed up the switches and it really just threw me off. I believe a double bomb sprint will make it there, but man, I was so off my game I didn't even bother with it. Same thing, I just decided the staircase was the best thing here. No. And now we're done with the second section. Again, not too difficult. Here, you generally want to save because the moves on the record are inconsistent. And it is somewhat annoying to deal with. If you learn all the tricks to it, it's not bad, but it is really annoying to deal with. So most of this is you just want to kind of go down to attacks, counter him, and you just want to wait until he throws this little energy bomb. I always do aerial attacks with it because it gives you a wider motion on the y-axis on the vertical, and because it bounces up and down, that means it's easier to hit when you do that. You generally can get 5 or 6 hits with your bat off. You can try to use bombs, but I just don't think it's helpful. When he's doing his little escape thing there, you can jump underneath him. However, it is dangerous because if you're close enough to him, he'll like bat you away. And I think he does that at one point in this run. This is another point where I had to save and reload just because of one time I died to him, and a couple other times I didn't save and I died afterwards, and it was quite obnoxious. As long as you jump, like in most games, if you jump when someone does like a ground pound shockwave thing, you'll avoid the shockwave, which is not how that works. And there I got very mad because I jumped on top of the bomb and I didn't hit it. I was expecting him to charge it again. Usually he does that escape thing twice, but not always. And now he's done. Yeah, that battle is not too hard as long as you keep your distance and you hit those little electro bombs into him to stun him and also weaken his defenses. And from this point we move on to the next story beat, which we go to the big city. And we get some upgrades along the way, just to make things easier for our lives. The Zero Trial only says you cannot get health or stamina upgrades. You can get any other type of upgrade you so choose. But one of the other big things that we do in the city is not only do we unlock the pathways, but we will eventually get the spear once we're far enough in, which is the best thing in the world. And it is at this point where the story takes a turn from kind of like, oh, what's really happening, and our people are captured, to, there's a cataclysm event that's happening, and we need to be aware of it. And of course, being the main character, only you can save it. So we go in the city. I just originally ignore any sort of the upgrades or anything else because we gotta go, once again, much like a tie, we're gonna go back through the city. So it's beneficial to just go through. The only upgrade I get is this charge attack here first. And that's because going through the underground is actually faster than going through the above ground surface. Just because it's a lot shorter to do so and the screens don't take as long. You want this technique because it'll allow you to charge your charge attacks within a second or so. It's pretty quick compared to 3 seconds, so it significantly cuts it down. And especially when we're spamming attacks with the spear bomb, it is very helpful. There's a couple things we need to get here: spicy noodles, 2 grape cakes, and also a blue lobster special. This is one of the few like out of the way kind of chests I get. It's in the way enough that it makes it easy, but it also gives you a lot of money, which you will need for the crossbow. There's plenty of other things you can do in the game to get money, but this is, I would say, the fastest way to get it, because that's a lot of money that you get. So you can buy the grape cakes there. I think they're 30 each if I remember. Or you can get them for free if you go through the guard way right here and then right. If you go through the guard like barracks, and then you go all the way up to the top level, there's a crate with a free grape cake in it. You need 2 of them. You can either save and reload the game immediately to get it, or at some point when you come back through, save and reload the game to reset the area and reset all of the drops to get it again. Not much happens in the city. It is straight, kind of... It's another one of those hide-and-seek fetch quest things. Again, they do this 4 times? I think 4 times throughout the game. It's cute the first time. It's annoying. It's like whatever the second time, and then it just gets annoying. Again, they could have expanded upon this a little bit better. This one is a little bit better because it's more of a puzzle than it is just straight hide-and-seek or a fetch quest. But the other one, the one they do at the castle walls is really just belaboring the point and making it really obnoxious. Thomas has been captured. We need to go find him. At which point leads us to we need to find a secret entrance into the castle. So here again, we're going to go all the way right. This is a point where you can save it and reload to get to the crib cake since you're already here. But I didn't do that. My sprint jump failed me. You need to talk to this guy and go back through. You see the people that I need to talk to. But overall, again, the pacing in the first, I would say, half of the game, honestly, could use some work. I mean, it's really dense up front. As the fetch quest and running through the cities and doing all these things. I think there's a lot more things they could have done design-wise to not be kind of just... Not seem like it's a slog and taking its time. Especially when you consider the second half is just kind of a gauntlet run through a bunch of enemies. And there's no more story, there's no more exposition, there's no more dialogue. It's just kind of a straight run to the end of the game. Which I don't mind. I kind of like that the game did that, but not the half of the game. There's the last little, like, hour of this 2-hour and 45-minute run is just nothing but running through enemies. Here we have another fetch quest. He gives you hints on who to find. So that's why I say it's a little bit different. It's a little more of a puzzle, which I kind of like. I would have liked it if it was a different thing. I kind of would have liked it if at one point they made you go out into the overworld or something. Again, still kind of a fetch quest, hide-and-seek type of situation, but just a little bit different than running through the city, finding people and talking to them. I would say I like the design of the city very well. It has both vertical components to it as well as a bunch of design and character into it. Again, one of the things I really love about this game is just how much artwork is in it. While it's pixel art, you know, not very detailed, there is a lot of detail in the environments and the set pieces, and it's really good. It feels lively and it feels realistic in that sense. If you talk to the people, there's a lot of, like, you know, cute, funny jokes that are happening throughout the whole thing, which, again, I like that the game doesn't take itself too seriously, especially considering that I'm this, like, 16-year-old girl who's beating down huge, big robots. Like, it's a game. You don't have to, and not everything has to be Last of Us and God of War. Don't always have to be serious. So now we found all 4 people, and it automatically teleports us to where we need to go. Again, one of the cutesy things they do here is that these people are not like a secret... they're not a secret organization. They're just a bunch of people that keep the lights on in the sewers and tunnels. And it's just, it's kind of like this, like, what? You can see me here trying to get the light off, because you need the light in order to... Actually, I don't know, I've never actually tried that, where I try to hit this without using the light. While you are in dialogue like that, you have iframes, so if this dude starts attacking or spitting out this little flame attack, You can just wait it out because you'll just absorb the hits without taking damage. Here you have to use a slingshot because you need the arc because you don't have any other way to get up there just yet. And it is really annoying when you're hot garbage like I am. We're heading into the dungeons, which in itself is not that hard. This is one of the areas I didn't practice, so there's a few mess-ups that I do here. I was going straight off of memory instead of practicing it, which was a poor choice. I should have done that. There's a few points where I look like an absolute buffoon because I go into the wrong doors, but again, it's not that bad. And you do have one or two extra key cards per area that if you mess up, you can recover from it without having to go all the way back and redoing the whole puzzle situation. This is one of the fights where the crossbow is very beneficial because you can attack these guys from above. You can also hit this guy from afar. It is really obnoxious when fighting all of these people because they just keep throwing things at you constantly. And one of them even just absorbed my attack, which was really annoying. What I had meant to do there was actually jump up and get to these ladies up here. And I just absolutely goofed it. So now I reset the fight, which is real fun. Clearly what I wanted. You can get these guys in a row, but usually by the time you do that, you're out of stamina. It's quite obnoxious. But generally, if you can get them together so they're not attacking you from a pincer location from both sides, that's generally what you want to do. This guy, he will throw a spear, but he's generally not accurate when he throws it to the top level. So you can just kind of stun lock him. And now that we have the instant charge attack, you can stun lock him against the door, and it makes it real easy. There's another treasure chest over here to the left, but at this point, we've bought everything that we need. So if you need to get extra money, you can use that little blue thing in the top left of the computer area. And you can unlock the doors to the left that give you a moonstone and also money. And you will see here one of many, many goofs that I do constantly. Which is I go through this wrong door because I didn't practice this. And I kind of waste time just attacking her because I thought I could kill her with the three bolts. Obviously, that was incorrect. But this is all either a memorization or they do give you doors like that black door is a free door so you can see what the area is. This one's straightforward. You go to the top right, talk to this guy, bring him back. And then you go to the left and everything is reversed. So when you go into the black doors, the image is, it's a little bit of puzzle. So when you look at the area, it's actually a mirror image of what the actual overlay is. So basically if you're going into the door on the left side in the B and the A areas, if you go into the black door to look at something and it's on the right side, it's actually on the left when you come out of it. If that makes sense. I kind of jumbled that in the initial explanation. They don't ever explain this, it's kind of cute, but there's like a little love triangle that goes on between all the people that you save. Once again, I didn't practice this, I went to the wrong door. But there's enough here that you can make one or two mistakes and still not have to redo everything. So one of the little fun facts here, one of the little tricks you can do is that you can goad those little flying things out. And if you go through a door, you have iframes, and what they will do is explode on your body, so they're no longer a hazard. But generally, if you run fast enough through these levels, you do not have to worry about them hitting you. They are not really a hazard if you're moving fast enough and are good enough with your jumps. That right there is a perfect example. They will explode on your body as you're leaving and not cause damage. Here, that really annoyed me because you can see the arrow come up and I'm spamming the up button, which means I should have left, but the game decided it needed to hurt me, which was wildly infuriating. So here, I think, legitimately, this is probably one of the hardest fights in the game, is there are so many people, so many things are happening, everything is knockback for you, you don't have knockback for anything, and it is just overwhelming. A honey brew here is not necessarily a bad idea, but I generally just track them all together. I try to goad them all into one. Like I said, I have them overlaid so that when I hit them, I hit all of them at the same time and kill them. They are weaker than their these enemies are weaker than the normal variants, so it's not that bad, but they are obnoxious. This first dude you can get a sneak attack on, if you're fast enough with it. Generally, I try to take care of the archers first, because the other guys, I think, are a little bit easier to handle, because when they shoot the two arrows, they do split off in a vertex, and it makes it very difficult to dodge, especially at long distances. Plus, your crossbow, and basically all of your attacks will stun them and knock them back and keep them from attacking. So it's actually not terrible. So you can actually space your attacks out to attack, gain some stamina back, attack again. But this is a situation where, especially if you get hit once, you generally just get stun locked and they do so much damage. So now that we're done with that enemy type, all we have left are the big dudes, which again are really easy to dodge, especially when you have this much space. It is annoying when there's two of them and they're throwing spears at you constantly, because there's not much you can do. You just gotta run around and hope that they stop. Because then again, they get you in pincer maneuvers and you're just constantly running around trying to avoid them and you can't actually attack. One of my biggest complaints with the game is in the combat, is that it is overwhelmingly aggressive towards the player. Not in the sense, it is overwhelmingly against the player in terms of they have infinite stamina, they have infinite attacks, every one of theirs knocks you back, stops you from attack, and they usually do a lot of damage, and it's just obnoxious that they have so many advantages compared to yours, and especially if you're doing the zero trial or the level 1 challenge, you don't have enough stamina to just beat them down. So you either have to buy a lot of honey brew in order to counteract that, or you have to do a lot of dodging and it wastes a lot of time, and it's really frustrating because you can't do anything about it. Like right now, when I missed a couple and he's attacking constantly and I'm breaking his bullets, like I can't do anything. I'm just sitting there waiting for stamina to recharge. And it just gets obnoxious, especially when he constantly spams his little bomb attacks. But there, that is, in my opinion, one of the most infuriating and difficult fights, just because of how many people and how overwhelming and just how many disadvantages you have compared to the enemies. But at this point, we get the spear, and we're going to make a derail to get the spear bomb, which allows you to have knockback, and allows you to have range, and allows you to do everything that the enemies do. You still don't have infinite stamina, but you do have a significant advantage over the enemies at this point now. And it levels the playing field quite significantly. I don't know why I did this. Usually what I do is exactly what I do here, is where I jump up and throw a spear. I don't know why I tried to do a race against the clock with the crossbow. I usually don't do that. I also usually don't take this path. What I usually actually do is take the path up and to the right. There's a little secret pathway to the overworld, and you can see me debating that here, and I decide to go against it and say, well, I've already taken this path, why don't we just go? But I usually take the path up and to the right. I don't know what's faster necessarily. I would think going up and to the right into the overworld is faster, just because you have to go through the entire city. But because I did save and reload against that big fight, I want to get the grape cake here and just move on past with my life. And you can see me because I'm taking an unusual path. I'm kind of frazzled and kind of making it as I go along, so I make a few mistakes here and there. But overall, again, this doesn't take too much time. It may save 2 or 3 minutes overall if you take the other path, because I think it is generally shorter. But again, we have an hour and 15 minutes to play with. I'm not gonna worry too much about that. All this is a backtrack through the Ouroboros hideout to talk to that one person we fought, like, who takes over as chief, and they will give us techniques and new upgrades for every set of 2 scrolls that we give. We only need 2. You can get 4 because there is a healing spell that you can get as well, but I don't think, I mean, especially towards the end of the game, if you're doing zero trial, it's not really helpful because every damage is 12, 14, 17 points of damage and you only have 30 health. So you get a free, I mean, the song takes forever to play, you get a free hit, but I mean, it's just not enough, and especially since enemies love to stun lock you in this game. Usually if you get hit once towards the end of the game, you just get hit, like, you just die. There's just nothing there's nothing you can do. But here, there's 3 ways back into the hideout. Since we have the spear, you can go all the way through the initial part with the first time that you see the flowers and those little Venus flytraps. And you can go through and spear into the top chamber. You can go back through down the first part of that area right here, where there's a little breakable crumbling block rock wall that you can break, and it gives you down to that area where we fought all those people and made him pay to, you know, that he was fighting me. Or you can take a train from a tie. I will say, I've actually tested it. This is the fastest technique to do. Just because you already have it open and it leads you right through that area, the heart of the area. The others generally take either just as long or a little bit longer, but not much, just because of the train takes so long for the loading screens and all the cinematic that they do. And the other area is actually pretty much just as fast as this one, just because you don't have to go up and down this huge shaft, so you just run through. So now we get the spear bomb, which means we generally will never attack with the bat or anything else again unless we absolutely need to, or something's right in our face. Just because the spear bomb, it has explosive area of effect. It has 2 little darts that shoot vertically up and down, so it allows us to do certain tricks with traps and whatnot. It also does the most damage of any attack except for the aerial charge attack with the bat, but you don't get that to the very end of the game anyway, so it's not useful. It has range as well as it has knockback. So overall, it is exactly what we need in this game when we're fighting multiple enemies, because it attacks everything at once. It hits them, knocks them back, stops them from attacking, and just generally damages them pretty hard. And so in this long trek back, again, nothing really exciting. You basically just want to strafe, go along. You can see the enemies being really rude here as they go through. I decided to go through the Oasis just because it's faster and less likely to kill me. I at this point just did not want to do this again, so I took the security of going back and resetting this overworld rather than just avoiding the enemies in the little battle section. Here, once again, you see me not sprint jumping because you need to throw a spear and you need to be in the water. So if you are overzealous with your stamina, you won't be able to get out of the water. You have to sit here for a while. It takes forever. Really annoying. But yeah, at this point, we have all the tools we need generally to beat the game. Anything that's basically not, anything that's not story related. So we won't buy any more upgrades, we won't do anything else. The only thing we'll get is some more Miranda at the very end of the game, just for stamina regen. But that's at the very end of the game. Everything else, we have now a straight shot to just get through all the story and the fights that we need. We go back through the city, and this is where I can pretty much determinately say, going through the overworld to the other secret that's up here to the right, in the tower, would be way faster. I don't know why I did it like this. Getting the grape cake does not take that much time, and you don't need to go that way. All this way, I don't know why. And I will say, at this point, I also started to panic because I hadn't saved at all during this time. So if I did die, I couldn't even reload it. I would have to literally do this whole 30-minute section again, and I was pretty determined not to die. This is not usually how I do it, but I messed up the spear. I meant to attack the wall to the left. There's a few tricks here you see me do with the spear, and a lot of this is getting the right vertical height to throw the spear and hit what you need to. And if you use the environment either as clues or literally as determinate stopping points, you will get what you need. So one of these is right here, where I put a spear at the very top. I mean, you could do it at midway, where I have the other one, but just as security to make sure that it pops. This is one of the tricks you can do. You hit that, and what you're supposed to do is carry that with you and throw it. But instead, if you press the alternate use on the spear, what it'll do is that it'll basically just release them, and the thing drops and breaks itself. So you don't even have to carry it with you. Hitting the time thing here actually would be faster. Again, I usually don't take this technique. I don't know why I did this. Maybe just to be cool, but it was kind of stupid. There is an enemy here, and you can run past him, especially since it will close the door behind you. But I think it's better to get rid of him because he is a nuisance, and he will shoot, and he will break this little gem thing, whatever you want to call this. This guy I usually ignore, just jump over him, and then at this point he can't get you unless he's throwing something. But again, at that point I had quick enough reaction time to get over it. So here, again, a little trick to do is that instead of doing the perfect little time trial, just carry this up here, shoot the thing, and you have plenty of time to move. Unless you get screwed on the jump, which infuriated me quite a bit. And here, this is showing you that when something drops hard enough on these, they will activate the little switches. And this is one where there's a few tricks here that make it a little bit easy to skip through without doing everything precisely as they planned or intended. You want to get rid of these guys because they will chase you down and they will pop it. They will pop this little gem. You want to put a spear at the very bottom of that section as possible so that you can jump up to it. You want to throw a spear on these little ledges here because it'll put it exactly at the top. Put the pot on the spear because we're going to get rid of that later on. And I messed up the jump here. But then you want to take a bomb, and if you throw it at the very edge of this higher ledge, it will put it exactly where you need to trigger that switch. And then from this point, you throw that, and then you release the spear and just get rid of them, and it drops the pot exactly where you need it to be. Otherwise, it is a little bit more of a trial of where you need to go, where you're landing everything. and it's quite obnoxious to get everything right, and hopefully things don't explode in your face. And you'll notice with these bigger guys, they take 3 spears, so usually I'll throw one, I'll charge another one, and delay, just so I have some of my stamina to recharge, because you can get 2 spears off before your stamina is out, but if you delay it enough, your stamina will charge just enough to give you a 3rd one in quick succession, so you can kill those guys without having too much of a problem. As usual, you want to get rid of the enemies that are in your way, especially these floaty boys, because they will be a problem. You can trigger him and wait him out, or I usually just kill him, just because it's faster, and as long as you don't jump too high, he'll be stuck in that corner and there's no way he can hurt you. Again, the annoying part with that enemy is that she will continue to shoot you, and unless you're close enough to her, there's nothing you can really do. But easy enough to take care of once you close the distance. This is a very tight timed jump, so this is why I don't push the bomb down. You need basically a perfect amount of stamina, which is why you sprint jump here, and then you have to roll under this, and you have pretty much just enough time to get under this if you do it in this way. There are other gems that you can pick up in the lower levels to make it easier, but I do that way because it's faster. This is another one of those areas where if you do not have the health, if you need the health regen, if you save and reload, it will automatically heal you to full. And this is a fight where I also had to cut it a few times because I was trying to get, there's a trick here where you can stun lock him into a corner and you can just basically one-shot him with the honey brew and the spear bombs, but I just couldn't replicate it. I do have a trick video where I show that off, but I mean, it is extremely tight timing. Basically, you want to get him over here. I don't know why he hit over to the left, over to the right. It was really obnoxious and it really threw off my game. But I did this probably 4 or 5 times and it was obnoxious every time. But if you can get him over into one of these corners and you have basically just enough time, and there's one of these spears that it takes me too long to throw, which is right there. I pull it out just too late. I mean, it is extremely tight timing. But if you get it just right, you can stun lock him there and there's nowhere for him to go. If you're too far from the spears, he will teleport away before you can hit him again. That's why you have to be right up in his face when you do that. And there were so many of these that I'm like, I think I should have had a charged spear bomb. But the fight isn't that hard as long as you keep on him and you're not too aggressive. If you're too aggressive, and he does a lot of, especially he does his little teleporting move, he has defense always wins. If you hit him just as he hits you, he will still hit you, and he does a lot of damage and steals your food. And especially since we need all of that food for one of the upgrades, it is not good to have. Now in the story, we again get teleported back to Pensolo. We have to go back through the world once again. Again, I like that they're giving you a chance with the spear and the bomb to go back and get all the upgrades without having to necessarily backtrack. But it's also really obnoxious here, just because you have to go through so much land and so many screens just to get back to where you were, and it's just so obnoxious. In this, they ask you to go back to get Thomas, and it shows you where he is. This is where he'll be for the rest of the game, and it kind of tells you he'll be able to upgrade your stuff. This is what he will do. He will take over for his sister who used to be here, and he will upgrade your weapons in a specific way with moonstones, which we will not do. Again, you can upgrade the weapons with the moonstones if you want to. That does not erase you or stop you, preclude you from the zero trial. Zero trial is again only health and stamina upgrades, but most of the upgrades to the weapons are not anywhere near useful enough to bother going to get moonstones or getting moonstones along the way. We have the spear bomb, we have everything we need. The double crossbow is generally pretty good, as well as the timed bomb, especially for some puzzles, but it's not pivotal, and if you're practice enough with some of the areas and the puzzles, the regular bomb is just enough for all of those puzzles just as well. This is just a huge exposition scene just to show you that the world is in danger. We need to get everything going, and now instead of basically figuring out what this golem head is, we are now, and where our people are in Pansolo, we are now saving the world. And you see me run off without, because I remember these songs, and you see me run off, you have to get the song. If you run too far, the game will pull you back. But I forgot I needed to do the song first, and then I could leave. But that is the last story song that you need to know. That will unlock anything, all the quest areas that we need to get to, so that we can open up the world and do certain things. Personally, I think it would be better if they had Cosette as a completely optional area, just for upgrades and certain things like that. And like resources, basically like this is the, we reserved all these resources for the kingdom in case this ever happened. And it would have been like a full trial area, kind of like at the end when you go through the trolls and the harpies and the arbors, that whole area. Again, I liked it. I liked that they had like that extra area in there. I think it would have been better if Cosette was also an extra one, just because it's not fully out of the way, it's not really a problem, but I think it would have been cooler if it's like, hey, we now allow you to straight run through the game if you so choose, but we allow you to go through the Deadlands and the war zones, and you can pick up you can go pick up the important piece that's obviously hidden there. But if you want to go to Cosette and use all of our resources the kingdom can provide for you, I think that would have been better, is make it optional. Another thing that I would have liked is that they clearly they prevent you from sequence breaking in the game quite a bit. There are plenty of times where you can do very precise, perfect jumps to skip through areas or get to places that you're not really supposed to get to without specific equipment, like the spear or the hover boots. And one of those is that in this realm, if you go to Fran's laboratory, you can actually get to the teleporter that gets to the like very late part of the game. I would have liked, personally, that if that teleporter was always active, and you could fully skip most of the game at this point, if you were good enough to get that. I think that's one of the things I think for designing a game, especially like this. It's really cool if you do that, just so people that are good at speedrunning, people that want to break the game, and because the jump to get there is very, very tight. You have to do a lot of specific things to get there. And I really just would have liked if they put that in there intentionally, just so you could. You can get to the teleporter, the problem is it's not on, so it won't actually work to teleport you to the very end of the game. And I just, as a personal thing, I love it when games do that. They give you the option to, you can play through the game right, you can play through the game wrong, you can play through the game in a quick speedrun fashion and just do whatever you want. You'll be under-leveled, you won't have the right equipment, you'll miss parts of the story, but that is your choice. And that's what I'm all about. As far as game design, it's all about putting the choice into the player. You can choose to go into this dungeon that's level 50 when you're level 10, but that's your choice. And here we have one of the glitches that happens in the game. I've actually seen this before. When you come out to this area, Gale just keeps walking right. So far, I've only ever had it that she walks right. It doesn't fully break the game. You just walk left at a certain once the cutscene ends, but it's pretty funny. Obviously, it did set me back quite a bit because obviously I'm doing a speed run, and that'd be annoying if you're doing a real speed run and that glitch happened. But I'm not going for world record, so I didn't really care. I just thought it was funny. So here you see me checking my inventory to make sure I have the berry. Here you need the berry, you need the potatoes, and then we're gonna have to do another long, super trek all the way back to Pansella to learn another song for an upgrade. But it is one of the best upgrades. This is the one that allows you to keep a charge attack in reserve automatically. So if they sit and stand there with a charge attack, you can carry the charge attack with you and move. We're gonna go in here, give her the berry, give her the potatoes, and then we'll also have to run back to Pansella. And I would say, the Cosette in particular is a great piece of world building. This is kind of where the world, to me, like the world really opens up and like, oh, there is, like you can see the walls in the background are completely solidified. Kind of like, you know, it's like the Great Wall of China or Rome when they built the walls around Rome. And like you go, oh, this is an actual city. People are rebuilding from whatever cataclysm that happened. They are making wheat. They're making food. That's like the kingdom is providing for the people. And then you see these big open farmhouses that are abandoned. You see these little these scurry things again that are not enemies. They're not hostile, but they're just doing something. The game does explain what they are later on. They are cleaning up all the radiation and the bile and debris from the old war. But I like this. This is one of the things I like. This is a great piece of world building because you're after all these areas where you're expecting bandits or machines or something hostile, and there's just nothing here. It is empty farmland, and the fact that they protect it tells you that this is important to the whole kingdom. Like, we need this area because it's fertile land, much how like Egypt was very important to Rome, because Egypt was very fertile because they would grow a lot of food, particularly wheat, which a lot of places needed, and that's why Rome won it a lot, and that's why they protected it quite a bit when they had control of it. In this world, I think they do a great piece of world building. You know, there's not the place is not super populous. There's not a lot of civilization outside of the big major city. In some of these other areas, there's villages or smaller cities, but most of the land is pretty desolate. Which means that when you're building game design like that, if you're gonna say there's been old world people rebuilding, it's hard to do so. They did the same thing with Horizon and Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. You have these big, you know, tribes and encampments and these cities, but everything in between is desolate. There's nothing there. It's only until recently with the Industrial Revolution and modern technology, central heating, central cooling, that we've been even dare to live in a lot of desolate places that otherwise would be generally inhospitable or very difficult to live in. Especially when we get to Pansella and we see that there's nothing here. Although it is, like, you can see that, again, it's a farming community, it's small, it's rustic. Like, there's, like, you see in the background when we get into the main village, there's a lot of actual houses here. There are a lot of people here. But if you talk to anybody throughout the game, they say that it's a very rustic, the rural, the country folk. Like, they kind of keep to themselves, which means people are also not really well traveled. People do not go out of their way. People do not typically travel from city to city. They kind of stay where they are, typically. It's again a good piece of world building to say that you have you do have different tribes. It doesn't seem to be any sort of like tribalism, racism, ethnicism, or anything like that in nationalism in the game. But this is generally how civilizations work, especially when you have to survive on your own. We have the song now. We're gonna go back through the whole goddamn map to get everything that we need. You can go through the Sunflower Road again to the beehive to get more honey brew if you so desire. Again, we don't need to buy anything else, so if you want to spend the rest of your money on doing that, just so things are faster and some of the other events or boss fights are better, we're saving the other honey brew for the computer battle that we're going to have at the end of the dungeons. I forget exactly what they're called, but the enclave, the hidden enclave of the prince and of the royalty. So getting into the honey brew here might not be a bad idea, especially for I would say probably 1 or 2 for like the Deadlands or the Scorched Lands, and another one, at least one for the Mole Caves in particular. There's so many beetles, they infinitely respawn. And it's not hard, the problem is it's so overwhelming, and you just don't have enough stamina on a 0 trial to withstand all the nonsense. And that's really one of my biggest complaints with the game, is that at the end, they over-relied on the combat, and the combat has so much built-in latency, like it's intended in the game. You're not allowed to be a superhero throwing 20 spears at the same time. The problem is, the enemies can, especially when they infinitely respawn as the beetles, and it's just so obnoxious. And that's usually where, anytime that I've played this game, and I've played this game multiple times, I legitimately hate that section, especially when I'm doing a 0 trial, for that reason. Like, it can either go very smoothly, which it almost did this time. I almost did it in 1 run, but the problem is, I pressed the jump button 3 times, and for whatever reason, it did not register. And because of that, one of the enemies that grazed me, killed me, and I had to do it again for the next, like, 30-45 minutes I'm going through, because every single time after that, it was the same stuff that happened, is that I would run out of stamina, an enemy would get upset, they would throw something at me, another enemy would come and attack, and it's just too much. It was just infuriating to deal with. Which is also why I would love a New Game Plus, because I would have the Lullaby Ava, which gives me basically infinite stamina. I would have increased health, I'd have increased stamina, and I think it would be so much better just to play the game like that, and just to give that reward of, you win all these things, you collect all these things, you worked hard for this, now you have this. And either you give the player the ability to collect those things again and have, you know, double the stamina, double the health, or you just have the collectibles there, but they don't actually do anything. They're kind of just inert stones or gemstones or whatever you call them. We've gone back to Corset, we've done all these things, now we have another upgrade. We have an upgrade that is very, very useful for all the towers here. That's why I didn't do the towers first before going through all of this, is because it's actually very helpful to have the Charged Spear Bomb in your pocket when you're going through these towers. Especially the combat one, which is this one. So we have to go through 3 towers. One is combat oriented, one is acrobatics, and one is kind of timing puzzle oriented. So a lot of this is just throwing your spear bomb at it. This one you want to delay just a bit on to spawn both of them out. They won't move until then. And the same thing here. Once we get rid of the 3 here, you actually want to delay your spear bomb just a bit, because the explosion, like these flying bombs, will actually hit the other enemies if you land just right on this first platform. And that way, it's pretty quick, and you don't actually have a lot of danger going into these fights. This is one where Honey Brew would actually be somewhat beneficial. I chose not to do it just because I didn't want to spend the money. It's not terrible, but it is wildly obnoxious to deal with. This is one of the tricks. You goad them into this corner, and hopefully you don't get hit. I did try to move, but the problem is, again, because of the latency in the game, it wouldn't let me do that. But you can use the box to block them from it, and then you can. The bomb is again, it's a bomb, so it'll hit them regardless, even if you hit the box, as long as the box is far enough to the left and they're close enough to the corner. This is one where that trick doesn't work as well, just because of that they move and shoot. But these are enemies that are actually pretty easy to get because they will go low enough, and you can either explode the bomb, or you can do this trick here, where you put them against the wall and just stick the spear into the wall, explode it prematurely, and it shoots a little dart up. So that way you can bring it back down to you manually instead of having to time it out. That standing turret on the left there, where the other guy just exploded, I usually don't trigger him, but because he was triggered, and I had to fight him, all of my combat, like, normal techniques got messed up, so this took a little bit longer to do than it usually does. But this is one where the crossbow is very helpful, because once you aggro an enemy, it'll come down to you, and again, we do that thing where we're going to keep him against the wall. If we need to, we're going to detonate the spear in the wall, just so we can drag him down and kill him easily, than trying to time it out or jump up and hit him. But this is one of those areas where it's just a slog, and it's one of the things where, like, if no enemies aggroed in the area, I would have really loved, truly, if the stamina generated a lot faster. I understand in combat you want to have that limitation, but outside of combat, and where there's no enemies and nobody's aggroed, if I'm just climbing this shaft here and this long wall and I'm doing a lot of this, there is no benefit, truly, to me having to sit here and wait for 30 minutes for my stamina to recharge. It's just obnoxious. Especially when, I'm doing spear, and you can only throw 2 or 3 spears with a full stamina bar at level 1 before you have to recharge. So one of the tricks here is that if you do not jump too high, you actually will not trigger the horizontal bars here. So you actually have time to get up there, regenerate stamina, charge up what you need to before the doors open. You can jump and force the doors to open, and then you can attack and get through them. So that is the combat tower down. The other ones are significantly easier. There's still one that has a difficult section just because it's a platforming section with those standing turrets, and the timing on the platforms and the turrets is just off enough that, like, you have to be very pixel perfect, and I just ignore it and decide that shooting them with a crossbow is way easier. I'll explain that when I get there, but most of the other towers are simply timing puzzles and whatnot, and it's not... There's a lot less chance for you to die compared to that one where there's just so many enemies. The order of the towers does not matter, and I will say the order of them, I don't think there's any specific way. Unless you get caught in the overworld, there's no specific method or order of these that I think is faster. Just because you have to, you just want to do tower, the combat one generally first, because you have to go up through the village to do so. But if you do this one or the last one, I don't think it matters which order, because you have to go down and up anyway. You have to backtrack in some manner, so it doesn't really make a difference which one is second or third. This one is all about timing. You want him to hit these 3 switches. Generally, I put a spear near the window, put one a little bit above, and then he will hit each one of these, depending on where you stand. This one's a bit obnoxious just because you have to climb in, climb out, climb in. I didn't mean to jump down, that's why there's a spear there. I meant to roll out and then jump up here. That was my plan. Obviously, that didn't work. This one's the easier of them just because you do not need to time it out. They're just hitting switches. This one, because I messed up the spears, really just threw me off and it was really obnoxious. This is one where you need to time it out. If they hit the switches here, it will actually cut them off, which you'll see in a second. If you're not a complete idiot and use the crossbow instead of the bomb, I'm not sure what I was thinking. But if you use the crossbow from above, you can actually trigger it so that way you skip one of these. You have to be very, very fast here. And generally what I do is I jump off that spear so that he shoots up. It's not hard to do, but if your timing is a little bit off, he will hit it. Stand at each one of the corners of the room, and he'll do that. If you're quick enough with this, you can actually do something really cool. Once he starts blinking, if you fall down, he will hit that time thing exactly. However, I messed it up. But you do have pretty much just enough time to miss one of these, to miss one of the shots, and still get it in time. They're pretty lenient with that, so it's not that big of a deal if you miss it. You can just use spears to get up to where you need to be. Alright, so we finished this tower. Again, pretty easy. Most of it is just timing puzzles. We're going to go back down. We got to backtrack to the southern part of the land so we can get the last tower. And then we go into the well where all the beams of light are congregating. This one has a bit of combat in it, but a lot of it is simplistic. Instead of having overwhelming enemies, it's usually just one at a time. But most of this is just taking your time, planning your jumps, planning your attacks. You have plenty of time to do what you need. Here, because I'm stubborn, I decided to try and do a bomb jump, which miraculously works out. I did not expect that to actually work out. I should have just thrown out the spear, but I am a stubborn man. This is the section I was talking about earlier, where the platform, it's timed jumps, and it's really obnoxious, because the platforms will shift and change pretty much just in line with the shots, meaning that it's almost impossible. And I would say, I managed to do it once, but it's actually, I would say, faster, because instead of having to dodge constantly, if you just shoot these guys, and at least kill 2 of them, it's way easier to do with. And the middle platforms, if you go to the very left of the platform and shoot up, that is when you will hit one of them. If you go to the middle platforms in this little crease here, you'll hit the other one. And the third one is in between the 2 platforms, in the middle and the right. But I usually don't get all 3 just because it's not necessary. And there's a few of these jumps where I get very furious at because it kills me, it drops me down. And I definitely jumped. I pressed the button, I did the thing, and you took it away from me. I definitely made that jump. I definitely didn't make that jump. But for some reason it gave me that one, and not the other one which I clearly made. I was getting very furious at this section because it kept messing me up. And this is what I mean of like, it may be beneficial for you to get rid of all three, just because the timing on the shots and the platform changes is very, very much, it's like off by like half a second, and it's very difficult and annoying to deal with, especially when you have all three. Again, this section isn't hard, you just time out when you hit the switches, and just make sure that they don't shoot the box. The last one is a little bit difficult. If you time it out wrong, the box will actually jump into the way of the bullet. Now that we have all three, we're just going to drop down here as much as possible and try to go through all of these without hitting the ground. We go where the beams of light congregate to the center well, and then we go through the pretty much the last part of the actual story of this game until the very end. So when you get down here, there's a few secrets and whatnot, and some food you can get if you want. Most of this, when you're in the train car with all those breakable crates, either grab them and move them, or explode them from a distance, because there's a bunch of explodey boys in there, and they will cause problems for you if you're too close, because they will blow up in your face and do a lot of damage. You can use the crossbow here if you so choose, but a regular spear will break these moving turrets, and they give you plenty of cover that you don't need to be in a desperate dash to try and challenge this. The real challenge of this is towards the end, where they have a bunch of turrets and a bunch of enemies coming at you at once. And if you do not kill them quickly, there's just too many bullets to dodge, and it's damn near impossible. This one's pretty simple. You just drag one of these over, hit in the little enclave, and because you're standing there, if you stand next to the crate, no matter how much they move it, it will not push you along with it, so that safety corner that you made will always be there for you. So the second challenge isn't that bad because you have that enclave. This last one is difficult because you have to constantly dodge. Again, it's a game of stamina, which you don't have, and it's a game of dodge everything while also dodging these moving saw blades, which becomes really obnoxious. And as you can see here, I'm trying to spam the spear because I don't have any stamina. But once you get through this first part, it's usually not that bad, because there's not as many moving parts. So you can kind of goad out their attacks, wait a little bit, and if you need to build up stamina, you have time compared to the moving turrets, which track you, and you have to constantly move, and you're trying to get rid of them. You would definitely want to get rid of the contact explosives first. You want to get rid of those bombs, the orange ones, because obviously they will hurt you a lot more, and they'll basically blow you up into the moving souls. And that's just not fun. It's just not what you want to do with. The blue one here, as you can see, even though he didn't blow up with the other one for some reason, he's easy to dodge and hit, especially alone. This one, I had forgotten about these moving turrets, so I took a gamble here and got hit, and I expected to die here. I did do this in one run. I didn't have to save and reload, which did surprise me just because I had taken a hit, and I was like, I can't take another hit. This first fight with the computer is actually not that hard, just because you have time to fully just spam attacks and do it. This is the trick to both this boss and the mother computer at the end of the game, where you take a spear into the left wall, and you avoid 95 to 100% of the attacks. And you avoid most of their attacks, or you have enough time to gauge where their attacks are going to be and have more time to dodge. Whereas on the ground here, you're constantly evading hazards that are moving on those rails, enemies, spawns, as well as whatever the computer itself is throwing at you. So yeah, if you have honey brew, you have enough time to just get it in one cycle. It makes it so much easier and far less frustrating than having to do platforming and attacks and dodging. We have our super special shard. We're going to go through the gauntlet. I almost messed up entirely and forgot there were spikes there, which has killed me before when I played this game, because I have forgotten about that as well, and it's wildly infuriating to beat the boss, do all these things, and then the spikes kill you. But at this point, you just run through straight left, have everything done, and you just go back to the main walls. There's a little bit of a fetch quest, but at that point, it's just a gauntlet run, and there's not really much to say other than a few tricks that I do, so there's not going to be much of an engaging conversation from my side, except for the things that spring to mind, because I do love that area. I am a big fan of Wastelands, and I'm a big fan of the dichotomy between New World and Old World, where the old caverns or the old ruins of the place, but you also have these new cities that are clearly booming and forming and all that. I like that dichotomy because it also shows like the determination of human beings and animals in general, that just, we will not stop. We will continue to move. We will continue to proceed no matter what happens. As long as we survive, we will find a way. And that is kind of maybe not necessarily the intention behind every single media that does something like that, but that is always what comes out of that, is that humans will persevere. Humans have determination and focus, even in the worst of times, and that is why Pandora's Box is and stories like it are the most important stories, is because when all else is lost, hope, focus, determination, and belief, and just having something to look forward to. Because that's the saddest thing, is when and that's usually what happens, is when people don't have motivation, when they don't have a drive, and they don't have passion, when they don't have hope. That's really what leads them to detrimental, to things like addiction, to pain and suffering. When you have hope, when you have someone that believes in you, when you have someone that loves you and cares for you, when you have a society that provides for you and builds you up, that allows you, and it makes you motivated to do things. But I lived in early on in my environment, and I lived with people in my family that didn't believe in that. They were downtrodden, they were miserable themselves, and they carried that on. They had the generational cycle of trauma and rage and anger and depression and addiction. And I moved away from all of that. Not to say that some of it isn't still inside of me, but I moved away from all of it. I try not to be like that, because that doesn't help anybody. And just because I'm sad doesn't mean someone else has to be sad. Just because I'm mad doesn't mean someone else has to be mad. Just because I'm hurt doesn't mean someone else has to be hurt. It doesn't mean I'm not allowed to feel those feelings, but it doesn't mean that you have to make someone else feel that, or you are justified in making someone else in pain. Simply, it's a psychological thing. There's people that explain it better, but my base value is the people that do that. Misery loves company, and it's also they generally feel, well, I suffer and I'm better for that. This is the trials and tribulations I went through, and it made me a better person. But that's not always the case. Everybody's different, and just because you suffered severely doesn't mean someone else needs to suffer just as severely. I will say the pain and the struggles and stuff that I did made me the man that I am today, but it doesn't mean that other people need to suffer just as much. So when you get to the first wastelands here, you want to go to this first area to the top right of where you exit, because that's where the last upgrade that we get is. That's where you use the noodles, the lobster, and the 2 grape cakes, because the troll will eat them, and he'll teach you the technique. At this point, you will see me sprint jump, and when I run out of stamina, you will see me kind of like move forward a little bit and then crouch. I'll do this little dance, and the reason is that when you get that upgrade, when you crouch, you take less damage, but you also regenerate stamina faster, and that's why you see me do that, because I keep moving forward while also regenerating stamina faster than I would. So in this area, basically, you just keep moving. You basically have a charged spear bomb in your pocket, you keep moving, you kill what you need to, you don't waste time, because there's so many enemies, and there's so much here. It's not worth your time to continuously fight and make the area clear, is because there's far too many of them. A lot of this is just knowing where to go and what to do. In this area, you have to get certain batteries to plug in to unlock doors. You see me pause here. This is just because something happened that I needed to pay attention to in the real world and I couldn't stop. which is generally actually why I don't like speedruns. I don't mind speedruns. I don't mind like no damage runs. I don't mind speedruns in general. My problem with speedruns is exactly that. Like sometimes I need to pee. Sometimes I need to do certain things. I didn't have enough stamina to do a spear thing. That's why I thought I did, and that's why that dude hit me. Generally, I don't like speedruns because, one, as that happened in the game, I pressed jump 3 times and it just didn't register it for whatever reason, and I died for that. That is, and I'm like, that's not my fault. I literally pressed the button 3 times. I don't want to hear anything about latency. I pressed it 3 times. I don't want to hear anything. That something happened in the game, in the PlayStation, and the control, and it's wireless, and I can attribute some of that. But the game messed up. I did not. I can't do anything about that. So I don't like it when I fail for that reason. I also don't like it when I need to do certain things. The real world is a part of it. That's why I don't like continuous speed runs. Like, it's just, I have other things to do. There are people who have a lot more patience, who are better at this than I am, but that's also why this is segmented rather than a continuous run. Not only because I would die, but because it's just not fun to me. And that's probably why I gave up on the Celeste runs, and a lot of that has to do with the D-pad on the PlayStation controller is not great. That thing is miserable to deal with, especially on a tight game like that, because the D-pad will press left, up, down. Like, if you're close enough to another direction, it will press it for you, and I would mess up so many jumps and dashes because of that, and it was just too frustrating to do. So for this dude, you can try to kill him and make it secure. Generally what I do is I try to goad out his jumping attack and just sprint roll. I just continuously roll under him to get him away. What's actually best is that if you can get him to do that jump move and you stand up like a little bit behind him and he rockets you over and you don't recover from the fall, is what will happen is that he will basically push you faster than you can and save your stamina past the turrets, and you don't have to worry about it whatsoever. Here, I'm just going to ignore all the traps as much as I can, and just go through this little mid-path here so I can get the battery. A glitch does happen here, which annoyed me. There are times when you throw a spear bomb in the air, even if you're not moving forward, and it will just straight rocket you forward. So unfortunately, because of that, there is a faster way to do this. I generally get rid of the enemies here first before I get the battery, just because they get in the way and they will shoot the acid and cause problems. So I get the battery down here, clear everything out. And because the spears are already in the wall, and as long as you don't get rid of them, you can just jump up here. I've yet to find a faster path to do this. There's probably one, but I have yet to find one. Alright, so you need to get 3. You can follow the wires. They will tell you where the batteries need to be, but there are 3 total that you need to get. One's up top, 2 are below. Once you go below into this little area, throw a spear into the wall up there. That'll keep the boxes from falling down. You can try to get these to blow the battery in there. The problem is a lot of those plasma remnants or the shrapnel or whatever it is that hurt you will hurt you if when you try to run. They don't always blow the battery into the receptacle, so I usually just get rid of them because they're kind of unreliable in that capacity. Generally, in the acid, if you're fast enough, you can jump and you won't take any damage. However, because you're carrying the battery with you and you need to pick it up, you will take damage in some capacity. So you do want to make sure that you have some health going in, especially since these guys will shoot at you and they'll do certain things. And if you get hit, generally drop the battery. But that's all three. At this point, you just keep moving. And then, again, we're now in the Moon Caves, which is my least favorite, especially when doing the Zero trial, just because of how obnoxious it is. So many enemies, there's no respite, and there's generally no place for you to dodge anything. Because you're only landing on platforms, generally, so there's no place for you to go. So this beginning part is going to teach you that if you throw a spear into this gem crystal thing, it'll just bounce right off. There are four types of beetles. Actually, no, five. There's these guys that are kind of just mindless drones. If they touch you with their little pincers, they'll hurt you. There's these athlete guys, and then there's these launch guys that if the launch guys touch you, they kill you. Especially when you jump 3 times and it doesn't register in the game. I'm not going to let it go. I'm very upset. But on top of that, there's like holding missile guys that are yellow, and then there's bomb acid guys that are like translucent and blue. But there's a little skip up here that you can do. So you want to get up here. This is where you get the rocket boots, which is the last tool, like movement upgrade in the game. So you come down here, come down to the right. Be careful with your jumps. Again, I'm not sprint jumping because enemies will hit you. You'll make a wrong jump and you'll land in a lot of these spikes. Once you get to the next area in the bottom right, what you can do is actually make a skip. If you do a double bomb sprint jump up off this box to the right, you actually skip a lot of the level that you would otherwise have to play. For the caves, there's a few tricks here, but most of this is just making sure that you do not trigger the yellow honing beetles before, like, you try to trigger as few of them as possible at a single time, and you try not to trigger them before you are ready. Because a huge part of this is because you're moving and hovering and jumping and throwing spears all over the place, you don't have stamina. You rarely ever do. So again, one of the tricks is in these tunnels with these guys who, especially the ones that like to jump, you can climb a bomb, spear bomb, throw it into a wall, and just wait, and then use the alternate attack to just detonate it. Here, if you're too high up, when they turn the corner, they will jump down and attack you. So I usually wait until they're fully upside down, and then I throw it. And a lot of this is just planting your spears, platforming as you need to. I generally wait until I have full amount of stamina, just because I do not want to be playing this game where I do not have enough. Don't use a spear bomb, because you will trigger most of these enemies. You basically want to use a spear bomb on these guys, because you want to have the height advantage. Once you get one, it's a little bit easier to dodge. There I almost messed up, but once you have one that's going on, it's easier to dodge and it's easier to maneuver. This is very tight, and you want to be careful with that. That takes a lot of practice to get, because I mean you have very little leniency with your hovering and your stamina to actually make through that unharmed. I have not found a good path for this. Usually what I do is I get down here and I go down and I put a spear into the spikes so that I have a platform to land on, because otherwise you have nowhere else to go. And just like before, you want to make sure you have enough stamina. When you get to the yellow guys, you want to make sure that all the acid is pretty much clear. I take my time in security because, again, you get stun locked here real easily, and that's a real problem. So as long as you take your time and, you know, you don't get screwed over by the wrong positioning or taking too long or you get stun locked, generally, that's really not that bad. The problem is, it is very easy to get stun locked in the Mokays. I would like that if they reduce the respawn rate so much lower, just because you kill one and another one spawns almost immediately, so you never have time to recover stamina, you never have time to recover, you never have time to breathe. It's just awful. But now we're past that, and we're in the last final stretch of the game, which again is usually just a gauntlet run. So here, this is like the real last challenge of the game, I would say. You need to be careful with your jumps and your stamina and everything else. The little laser beam that these monoliths shoot out do 23 damage. You can take one of these hits. And you can take one strategically if you need to, but generally, it is best just to not. So here you can see with one of these jumps that I'm doing, you have to have full stamina, you have to leap at the very end, you have to hover just right, you have to be very careful with a lot of these jumps. And this is one of the tricks. Instead of running through this laser, just do a spear first, make sure you recover stamina, and just ignore everybody. A lot of this is ignoring as much as you can, because you just don't want to be fighting these. It's not worth it. You don't need any sort of money. Otherwise, in this area, which I do like, I like the theme of it. I don't remember if they explained why this area is so hostile and dangerous with all the ancient weaponry. But I do like a lot of this, because a lot of this is, it's not forcing you to run through it, and it's not a lot of pacing. This is one of the little tricks I do here, that if you just run straight through, have spear bomb into the wall, you don't have to worry about any of that. Normally what you do is you have to trigger the laser and just kind of inch your way forward into the gaps. But if you just run straight through, you have enough time to avoid everything. Once again, this is where the timing gets a little bit tight. They generally are pretty lenient in these areas. In the little secret area to the right of the city, it's a lot more tight and a lot less forgiving. But in the area where you have to go through for the story, there's generally a general amount of lenience that you can have for distracting the laser monoliths. This little floaty guy was really pissing me off. So for the last stretch of the game, we want Miranda, so we get a free one here. Again, if you save and reload the game, these drops do respawn, so you could get free ones, but we'll have enough money towards the end of the game that we could buy a couple. And you really only need 2 or 3. I would say if you want 5, just to make the last part really fast. But again, I'm not going for world record speedrun, and at this point, I have enough time that I can dilly-dally as I need to. One of the tricks is that if you leave the area and come back, these lasers will not respawn. It's not, I would say it's not necessarily any faster, but it does make it a little bit easier. These guys are really annoying because they have a lot of area that they can cover, and it's really hard to hit them with the crossbow because they shimmy in the air a lot. But it's not terrible. Usually I just use a spear bomb. I usually go them over to the wall, use a spear bomb, and hit them. This is a little trick to get up here a little bit faster and just avoid all of the hazards that are there. And you don't necessarily need to do this. I would say it's not necessarily fully faster, but it does make it a little bit easier. Now we are in the pristine city, which is the last city in the game. There's not much here. There's a few collectibles if you so choose. There's a bed there if you need to rest up. Otherwise, we just move on to the final part of the game. And we just plow through into the final boss. I will be doing the zero trial in this video as well. But again, a lot of the same tricks kind of apply. So now that we're in the pristine city, there's a few things we need to do. Most of it's pretty simple. Won't take too long. There's a hidden treasure chest over here. Don't know why I didn't do a spear bomb. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's how I live my life. But here we are. But you need to activate the elevators as well as give power to the tram. So we just got to go through basically the corners of the city. And that's really all you have to do. They're teaching you how the new mechanic with the flute. You have to use the blue flute in order to activate any of these things, as well as destroy the monoliths, but you don't necessarily need to destroy the monoliths if you don't want to. These are the only monoliths here that you actually need to destroy in order to get progress in the story. The other ones, you can choose to. I think it generally makes it easier. You can either look at what they have and time it out, or you can I just generally spin the analog stick in a circle and it just kills them pretty quickly. Once we're done with this, we're going to go to the left side where we get to Miranda. I just buy a bunch. Honestly, I think I only use 2 or 3. I don't really use all of them, but I buy a bunch just in case. At this point, if you want to speed run through the game with much increased stamina, you are more than welcome to do so on your own accord. If you use the flute, it'll show these hollow pathways, but it'll make it really dark. I just remember generally where to go, so I don't really need to do that. It's not that hard. Basically, you go from the top left and just curve around the top side, and then you go all the way to the bottom right. Now that we got everything activated, we go down to the tram, and then we go to the last part of the game. And now that we have Miranda, it's really not that hard, because we have stamina regen, all the enemies that we'll be fighting, we have the spear bomb, and we just unload. So for the first part, I do take Miranda here, one, to speed run through the section, but most importantly, because you do have to fight a good bit of enemies, and it's so much easier when you can just stun lock them instead of having to wait for your stamina to refill. The other enemies aren't so bad, but these little robots, they attack so frequently and they have so wide and damaging attacks, it's easier just to get rid of them. If you don't have Miranda, or whatever happens, if you stand on this right platform, right where the B7 sign is, they generally can't get you there. They can shoot things up there, but it gives you a lot of time to navigate, and they struggle a lot to get there. And in this area, there's not a lot of like hidden pathways. It's pretty straightforward. There's one or two areas where there's one or two rooms where you can go into, which I do here. I make a mistake. I've done this a couple times. I don't know why I went to the left. I knew the left was a bad idea. That'll give you some food if you need to, but generally we don't need that because we have Miranda with heals us, and we can't take a hit anyway. So we just avoid it. There's enemies you don't need infinite stamina for, just because you can generally stand under these, and they generally will be unable to hit you, or they'll be in a position where you can hit them. Of course, they make a lot of me in this run because they pincer move me. However, they make it really easy to avoid them, especially when you're there. But now we have the 2 crystals, we can get into the final area of the game. We do have to do some backtracking. It is intended in the game to do so, and it's actually one of the things I like is when they make the world connected. It's one of the reasons I love Mega Man Legends, is because they made basically all the ruins can be accessed at any point from any of the ruins on the island, and I think that's really cool. I like what they did here, that all parts of the world are connected, and you know, a lot of this you can get from point A to point Q. It may not be faster, it might not be efficient, but it's all connected, and you don't have to go certain pathways. There's multiple different hidden pathways. So here we need to get 2 more crystallis. I guess would be the right term because it's an IS, and so the Latin would be ES. But we need 2 more crystals in order to activate the podium so that we can do the backtracking thing. There's a hidden tram in the area with the monoliths, or the megaliths, I think they're called actually. So here we take this big box, we just move it across, defeat the enemies, the box will give you cover, so it's not that hard. Just make sure you're taking your time. You don't want to upset too many enemies at once, because they will overwhelm you and they will get around the box. But here, take your time. Moving past these lasers is tight. So generally what I do is I take the leftmost side and put it on the leftmost edge of the laser, and then once it disappears, I start to move. At this point, it's just a straight run through. I try to avoid the lasers, but it's not that big of a deal, because generally nothing will be able to attack me by the time that I leave. So you go through the D area, and you go through the E area. So D is the easier one, E is a little bit more difficult, just because it requires very specific movement and platforming. It's not terrible, I will say it is very tight and it's very annoying, especially on the Zero trial, where you have no stamina. So when you're hovering in the air in this next area, if you don't do this exactly right, you will, exactly right there, you will lose it. And it's incredibly infuriating every time, because it makes you look at the door every time it opens. Now we got the 2 crystals, at which point we can go through the A area and do the backtracking thing, because we're going to pick up actually the 3 crystals that we got from originally entering the final area. So we take Miranda, because getting up all of this with all the spears as well as attacking all of his enemies is really obnoxious, and it's just so much easier when you don't have to worry, when you don't have to sit there for 20 seconds waiting for your stamina to recharge. So now we're going to go through the A area. We're going to be done with that. We're going to backtrack, pick up the 3 crystals that we originally got, that originally we put down in order to get into this area, and that way we have 5. Once we have 5, we can then go through the C area or the F area. I always go through the F area because because in order to get the basically the infinite stamina spell, you need to put crystals in the A, E, and C area. And if you pick up that C crystal, you have to go all the way back to do that, and it's just not worth it. On top of the fact that in the C area has a huge fight that, again, you want to use Miranda for, and the F area is it's just way easier. It's just a timing platform puzzle. It is dark, so if that's a problem for you with the brightness and everything, you probably don't want to do it that way. Then you might want to do the challenge, or you bought the lamp at some point. But it is a dark area. You wait for the lasers to hit some blocks, and they make a path for you. So here when I come back, I usually just avoid these guys. You can kill them if they're in a good spot. Same thing here. In the next screen, I decide not to fight these guys at all and just fully reset and fully just avoid them entirely. Just as a point of note, if you're doing the technique where you die and then you reload the save so that you come back, any of those megaliths that you destroyed with the blue flute will come back. They will respawn every time that you quit the game and come back. So keep that in mind. You don't necessarily want to do that. You want to do this in one run because it just makes it easier. But again, destroying those things is not hard, and there's only like 2 or 3 that you need to get rid of. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, so in the backtracking, there's not really much to talk about other than pretty much the end of the game. We are here, we're going to backtrack, get one more crystal, and then everything's pretty much good to go. We'll finish the game here. Most of this is just drink Miranda, sprint jump, and just move your way back. There's not really much more to say here. At the very end of this, I just want to talk about, I do like this game. I like a lot of what this game had to offer. I think they relied on the combat too much, or they should have refined it. I think they struggled with the stamina. I think the stamina was too restricted, especially in areas where there's no combat, and it's strictly just a puzzle. But they made a choice, and that's what it is. It is a shame the game didn't sell well enough. It is pretty much exactly what I'm looking for in a modern, like, 2D action platformer collectible thing. I would, if I, had another Mega Man game, this is kind of what I would want. I'd want this over-expanding, like, what I liked about Mega Man 0 is the same thing. You had this world, they would teleport you if you wanted to, but you could also go around and walk. I liked it with Mega Man Legends. I would like them to honestly, I like them to remake those games. I would not re-release them, because they were not good when they came out. They had terrible controls, but I think they would do well, honestly, in a modern market with modern controls. I think that was a huge limiting factor, is that the controls were, when 3D was first coming out, and they were not there, not ready. But I like those types of games. Jackson Daxter is another one. I like games where it's just the world feels connected, it feels full, and it feels alive. And this game excels on a lot of that in the world building. There's a lot of story to tell. There's a lot of things that are hidden in the backgrounds that you can pick up on. It makes a very good example of how to build a world both through exposition and not. I would say the pacing could use some work, but overall, I do think it's a good game, and if you like these types of games, it is a very good one. And there are accessibility options and lower difficulties that, if the combat and the stamina and whatnot are annoying you, you can turn some of that stuff off. You won't get some of the trophies, but that doesn't bother you. Who cares? And in the final section here, we go through F. We put through all 5 of our crystals here. We drop down here to this middle path. We drop down here to the bottom right path. Again, it's dark. However, you can generally see enough. And actually, you can use your rocket boots, which will give you some light and illumination if you're like me and didn't buy the lamp. A lot of times these things will go down into a corner and not actually shoot or do anything that you need. You do sometimes have to jump and hover to get them to attack what you want. But usually for me, the trick that I use is when the beam first starts out, I wait for it to flash once before moving. If you move too quickly, it will adjust too harshly, and the laser will not hit what you want to do. You would basically be standing where you are, and then once it flashes once, move away, and then it generally won't be able to correct itself enough. And here I make a mistake because I thought it broke that boulder up there. You could land a spear on that very edge, but it is very difficult to do so. And I make another mistake because I forgot that I got rid of the spears. I pressed the alternate button, and so I was very confused why I wasn't making the jump that I clearly was supposed to make, and that's because the spear wasn't there anymore. We make a final ascent back up. I honestly forgot that I had more Miranda. I would have taken some here, but I also got trapped in this whirly bird of death. Just waited him out. So we just travel back up, and then we go to the basement where the final boss is, and beat the game. In the last stretch here, we got to put the 6 crystals into the little thing here. These are the only crystals that once you remove them, the gates will not close back up. So you can grab these 6 crystals. This is useful. This is used for when you need to go get 100% of all the collectibles and stuff. But here, we're actually going to backtrack just a little bit through E2 and A2 so that we can put crystals in those areas to unlock the door that will allow us to get the infinite stamina spell. Essentially, it's not truly infinite, but it's pretty close enough. As long as you're not incessantly spamming whatever, you will recover stamina so fast that it doesn't really matter. If there was ever an update to this game in any capacity, I do wish they would put in a New Game Plus, or they would allow you that if you know the spells and you could just do them, because I really think that this game would be improved massively if there was a different stamina system. It's fun, I like it as a challenge, but especially on the zero trial, there are plenty of times where the enemies have too much power, and they can attack incessantly, whereas we can't. But overall, when I played the Flash game back in like 2010, I liked it a lot and I thought it was interesting. I was surprised at how much they added and how much like care and effort went into this game compared to the Flash version. The Flash version was good, but I was quite surprised actually how big this game was and how much went into this. Here we get to the final descent, we get to the final save point, and here we are at 2 hours and 44 minutes. But now we're going to do the zero trial part of this run, where we're going to get the Lullaby of Ava, which gives us essentially infinite stamina. I'm going to skip through this cutscene because we're no longer necessarily in a speed run, so it doesn't really matter for me to show every minute on screen. We're just going to head into the boss battle itself. I will let you know there is a weird glitch that happens with the boss battle where the shield will only take half damage that it should. So I don't really understand why this happens sometimes and why it doesn't. But I will tell you, if that happens, just quit and reload, because it is not worth your time to try and struggle through that. And I will say I'm upset. So, I'll show it at the very end here when I show all, I show at the very end here, I show most of my failures. I'm actually upset because the first run that I did actually was very perfect. It was a clean run from backtracking and doing all the stuff and getting the last crystal, coming down here, fighting the boss, and I died at the very end fighting my clone, and it was very annoying because they just, it was the same problem that I have with a lot of the combat. They incessantly threw just spears after spears after spears. I just could not. I couldn't avoid all of them, and it was so annoying. Here. When you do this battle, throw a spear, just like we did with the other computer. She will summon enemies. The problem, you definitely want to kill at least one of them, because if there's two of them that are hovering in the air and shooting at you, which they would definitely love to do, you will be overwhelmed and you won't actually be able to attack the computer. Once you attack the computer and get the shield done, it will send out an EMP that will destroy the enemy. So hopefully he doesn't throw in a lot of bombs and a lot of those laser star things. When I first did this, I didn't realize that the little eye thing that shoots out the thing that's right above my head now, that is actually like a weak point. If you do a spear bomb into it, it usually does like 50 points of damage compared to 36. So if you get the chance, make sure you hit that, because if you hit it just right with the spear bomb like directly, it will do like 90 points of damage and destroy the thing. Because you really want to get this thing in, you really want to get the mother computer in one cycle. You do not want to let it continue. And then here we're at the final fight. There is one more fight after this, but you do not need to win it to beat the game or to get the 0 trial. So generally, I say just ignore it because it is a ridiculous fight and it's annoying because they give the enemy way too many advantages. But here with the clone fight, it's the same thing as always. I usually delay and hesitate each one of my throws to see what the clones are doing. They have all the same tools and abilities that you do, so you don't want to overextend yourself. I usually charge it up, wait a second, see if anything's coming, and then just launch. If there is a projectile like a spear coming at you, you can throw a spear to deflect it. Crossbows are a little bit harder just because they're smaller and they're a lot faster, but generally just throw spear bombs and the explosion will take care of anything that's around you, and it's not that hard. And at this point, we are done with the game. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. But until next time, Walete Omnes. This is when I throw the bomb and it lands right in my face and I get so absolutely mad. This fight is absolutely miserable because, again, if you get them out of sync, they will just continuously throw things at you. They just incessantly attack, and you just get stun locked, and there's just nothing you can do. It doesn't help that Gale didn't attack the right way. That was just a miss roll by me. This one actually annoyed me because when they shot, they should have shot upwards, but then they shot exactly where I was, and it was so annoying. And this is another one that really irritated me because he jumps back, but he jumps back just enough for no reason, just to land on my body. This one, you see the arrow come up. I'm spamming the up button. Don't tell me I missed that. And this is the one I mentioned earlier that infuriated me so much. Because I got all of these guys. I was very good. I was strategic. I was dodging everything. Break him. And then I jumped 3 times. I am on the ground. This boy had such a snipe. This also infuriated me because this was also done in one run, and then of course, he comes out swinging. This is one where it was all one run, but of course, they just won't stop throwing things, and it's everywhere, and Gale throws a spear in the wrong direction. Which would have saved me from that last attack.